So are there any questions? Most of you don't know who I am, so perhaps you'd like to ask me some questions. Yes, good. What's your name?
Stuart, when you say you have satsang, what do you discuss in your satsang?
The nature of who we are. I think that everybody that's in this room and on the Zoom call knows that they appear to be this person and they live in this world, playing out their part, but they're very aware that their true nature is way bigger than that. And so I think that because our lives are usually very active and we play our parts very well, it takes some time to unwind and relax and allow ourselves to be the emptiness that we really are. Allow our minds to slow down, get very quiet, allow the whole body to rest. And then there's no question that who we are is the beingness rather than the person. That's the whole thrust of the satsang. You are before the person. Would you like to know more?
I would.
Yeah. Okay. The only problem is, I don't think most people on the path really believe that they're not the person, because there's so much trying to be a better person, trying to improve the person, perhaps trying to deserve to be the supreme being that everybody says they are. And we get so wound up trying to be better that we forget that it's underneath all thought, before all thought. Kind of like allowing yourself to melt out of the person and acknowledge that I am. I am what I've been seeking. I am the infinite. And it's not blasphemous to acknowledge that. It's the simple truth. And then, when the mind slows down to a halt, the heart starts to open more and more. And you start to realize that you start from the heart. You are the heart. The heart is you. And it is an eternal source of joy just to be. To be the self, to be the joy, to be the openness and the emptiness of the head for no reason at all. Absolutely no reason. You just are. What's your name?
Jane.
That's what the satsang is like, Jane.
And can I ask Stuart, how in the satsang, when there is this quietening of everything, how does that, in practical terms, materialize in your satsang?
Well, very similar to tonight. We sit quietly. We listen to beautiful music. We allow ourselves to acknowledge whatever comes to mind. We allow it to be there. We look at it, and we rest out of it. We allow it to leave. We invite it to leave. We invite the self to meet whatever the person is holding, so that the energy that we're holding can leave. It's a natural process. Next question.
It's very interesting that you speak about embracing that which is sitting in the mind, as opposed to trying to ignore it, and that you allow it to kind of go its way after embracing it. That's not something I've heard much about in many of the traditions. I find that really fascinating.
Well, Ramana always said that you should ask yourself, what is here right now? What is making itself known? The mind is always making something known, some feeling, some emotion, some thought. And by ignoring it, it'll keep knocking at the door. I want out of here, really. I'm here to get out of here. But since we want to be quiet, we kind of push it away most of the time. And so by acknowledging what it is, you can explore what it really wants and what it's covering. And once you see it for what it is, it doesn't have to knock at the door anymore. It just gets quiet by itself. And then what happens really is that the self is all powerful, so powerful. So really what we're doing is we're honoring the power of the self, and that we are merging into that. We are allowing the person to actually merge into the self. And we use a process where we say, I love you, self, that I am. We acknowledge the truth. I love you, self, that I am. Like a mantra. And we acknowledge what it is that the person is believing at the moment. And then we just get quiet. And we allow the self to meet what the person is holding. No doing. We're not doing anything, really. We're offering what the person is holding, clinging to, actually, for security. Person really wants to be what they are when they're aware of the truth of who they are, and also they're afraid. Person is afraid of not holding on to anything. So sometimes you'll find that you want to let go of something, a pattern, let's say, and at the same time it's your identity. So I want to let it go, and I identify as it. So there's this conscious and unconscious holding on to it. And we're kind of going around in circles. So by offering it to the self, we're getting out of the way and we're saying, I've done this so many times. I've tried so hard to change this, and I have failed successfully. Here I am again, same stuff. So I love you, self, that I am. And this is here. I give up. And something beautiful happens. Energy moves. Something is met. emptiness happens. And you allow it. More quiet. More peace. I love you, self, that I am. No more questions?
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Anybody here have any questions or anything they'd like to say?
I find it, I'm always asking, what is blocking? What is it that is in me that is stopping the unveiling of what you're saying, the truth of what I am?
Mm.
And the thing that always arises in me is that, is it possible to be able to see without doing anything, be able to see these processes, internal processes, which are blocking blocking the opening? So how is it that I can open and see and retain that openness consistently?
The question really is, Philip, who wants to get to be that openness all the time?
Yeah.
Philip does. And the problem, I believe, for most people is that they believe that they are the person. And because it's such a solid being, physical, in the world that's physical, that nothing can convince the person that they are not the person. And your mind won't help you with that. And once we identify as the person, then there's always a struggle and a path to get out of the person, to become something else. And since you are before the person, you have to turn around. You have to leave the idea that you are the person, even for a second. You're not transforming a person into something else. You're not transcending the person. You're not getting up to be a higher person. You're allowing yourself to feel being no person.
To be nobody and nothing.
Just to be no one in particular for the moment.
Yeah.
You see, you want that desperately, and at the same time, there's so much conditioning and history of identifying as a person that in one fell swoop, how can you not be one? You see,
You can't do it in one fell swoop, can you?
it's before that.
Yeah.
It's pondering the idea that I am what I am. I am an infinite being. It's like informing your own mind what the truth is, so the mind gets stymied. It can't keep reminding you that it's impossible because just look at it. Get real, Philip. Just get real. This is your mind speaking. Pay attention. You must identify as what you appear to be. You must strive. You must do this. And none of that information that it's feeding you is serving you. It's serving itself, actually.
It's moving away from one's own story.
It's holding on to the story.
Yeah.
Even if it's saying, I want to help you to get to be who you are, it's throwing you a bone and then sending you in another direction.
Yeah. There's a sense, though, that in moments of stillness, that there's a sense of that when I come out of stillness, I have a much more sense of that I'm just in a realm of appearances. That everything around me is just an appearance.
That's true.
Yeah.
And if you go deeper into the self, the appearances lose their power, right?
Yeah, they become a map rather than a territory.
Right. And if you go a little bit deeper into the silence, the mind loses its power to knock on the door and try and seduce you back. And you notice that you are in the silence and you're in a different realm now. You're aware that you're still here, but you're very, very quiet. And then what would happen if you went a little bit deeper? So that you lost contact with the appearances.
Yeah. I sometimes have this sense of a substance, the substance of the unknown. That there's the unknown does have a substance, but it's just like one is touching that a much deeper level of being, and that I'm identifying most of the time with my story, the I of my story, but I'm not identifying with my core identity, my core I, which has never changed since birth.
Yes.
It's been there all the time.
So I think it's really wonderful that you have such a love of the truth. And because you have a love of the truth, you've investigated what it means, and you understand it.
Yes.
Right? And you can tell people about it, and you can even interest people in it.
Yes.
And then my suggestion would be to leave it entirely.
Yes.
Leave your mind entirely. It's like a brave jump into your heart. Leave all knowing. Leave it alone. Allow yourself to know absolutely nothing. None of the philosophy, none of the truth, so that you can be it. When you leave your mind, your heart opens all by itself. No doing, no effort.
I noticed that when you say that, that really resonates, because I notice that in moments just before I go to sleep, I notice that. that I leave, the mind is left behind.
Hmm. It
So
must be
then-
left behind.
Yeah.
It must.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't sleep.
Yes, exactly.
And then when you are asleep, you go through a phase of dreaming, where the ego is still working. And then all of a sudden, you're not aware of sleeping anymore because you're in a very deep sleep, right?
Yes.
So when you wake up, you say you feel great because you were recharged. You were awake in your sleep. Your consciousness was still there, but you were sleeping and recharging. So when you leave your mind, when you're awake, and you just leave it alone and you don't know anything, and it doesn't matter if you know anything, you are conscious of being the absolute while you're embodied in a body. Your mind is completely empty, your heart is wide open, and it doesn't matter who you are because it isn't relevant. You just are.
That just so resonates with me when you say that.
And then your body becomes borderless, you expand, and you are in bliss for no reason. And then, of course, if the mind comes in, it wants to hold on to that
Of course.
and own it.
Yeah.
You have to notice that. And you do. You notice it.
I noticed it when I had a lucid dream about that I was dying. I noticed that there was what you've just been saying, there was such a strong resonance of that sense of coming to a place where there was just awareness.
Hmm. That's it. That's the truth. Just awareness. Nobody to own it. All the pointing, all the philosophy, all the knowing is trying to describe the indescribable, which is pure awareness, no language, all expansion, everywhere present.
At the same time, I'm sort of caged into my own conditioning.
No, you're not. It's just words coming up. It's just the mind kind of like saying, I'm fighting for my life.
I knew you'd say that. I say that.
As soon as you said it, you knew I would say that.
I say it to myself.
Habit.
It's just moving from the local mind into the universal mind.
Okay.
I shouldn't
That
say
sounds good. But I'll tell you, you know this too, that when you get really, really quiet and the mind no longer has the power to pull you out of it, somehow the mind gets very clear and then starts to support you because it no longer has the power to pull you out of it.
Say that again. No, I don't get that.
Well, when you get really, really still and you're not really interested in any interference of the mind anymore because you're absorbed in yourself, the mind kind of joins into that absorption and serves you. It becomes clear. The mind becomes part of the absolute and it serves you.
Yeah.
It's no longer a separate entity.
It's moving from the local mind to the general, to the...
There's only the absolute. It joins that. Because you've left. There you are. How do you feel about being the absolute?
I don't. I don't understand that question. I don't understand that question.
Well, how
How
do
do
you
I
feel?
feel about
How do you
being
feel about identifying as that?
what do you mean? How do I feel? Of course, that's what I am.
But what I'm adding is, how do you feel about identifying as that?
I don't know how to do that.
But you are that.
I know. But that's what I'm saying is that my conditioning and the fact that I have patterns of conditioning and movements and traumas and stuff that are all racing around, I totally resonate with that. Of course I want to be that. What do you think? Of course I want to be that. I want to be that.
So what would happen if you took the word want out of it?
I don't know. I would just be that, I imagine.
Exactly. So really, what we're doing is defending against being what we are, because I have conditioning, I have trauma, I have history, and I'm undeserving. And I believe it. I believe my trauma, I believe my conditioning. I must get rid of all of it before I'm deserving, I'm pure. And that is a lie, believed strongly. It's very strongly believed that I have to get rid of all of my negativity, my hostility, my fear, and you can't, because it's believed so fully by the individual. It supports the individual as separate. So you have to see that what part of the conditioning is operating in the moment that makes you believe that it's the truth. You see? You just hold it to the light. This is the conditioning that's here. I believe that I'm this kind of person, and I'm unqualified or undeserving or whatever it is I believe, that I could not see through it, and I can't be anything other than that because it's true. You just look at the strength of the holding.
Yes, it's hugely strong.
Yes. And as long as you believe that it's the truth and it's very strong, then it's really saying that it's indelible. And what I'm saying is that the more that you look at it, the more of it evaporates. You surrender it to the self. This is what I'm believing right now. I surrender it. I take the ownership of it, how it's grasping onto me as the truth, and I open to it, and I allow this energy to move on in this moment. I acknowledge the power of the conditioning, and I disown it as much as I can in the moment.
Wow, I believe I seem to be hogging the conversation. So
I'm sure you're
Anybody else
speaking
wants to-
for most people.
Am
I think most people believe most of their conditioning.
Very much.
I think so. Right? I mean, that's the way human beings are. The things come up into the mind. It sounds like the truth. It's familiar. And I don't want to believe it, but I do.
So true.
I just do. I'm this kind of person. I've always been like this. What can I do? Well, remind yourself that I am the self, and this is a veil that's trying to disown the truth. It's trying to sway me away from the truth of who I am. So I'm going to allow it to exist. Instead of, honoring it, do something counterintuitive. I'm going to let the conditioning exist exactly the way it is and look at it straight on and not be under its spell in that moment. Then it can't fight back because you're not resisting it. It has to evaporate. It must. because you're not fighting with it. The only reason we fight with it is because we believe it's true. So you are meeting it head on.
What about that which is hidden in the subconscious, which, like core beliefs, which we've been told lies for hundreds of years about who we are,
Mhm.
what we are,
Mhm.
and those core beliefs are kind of hidden in the subconscious. They're not. They drive our behavior.
Yeah, but if you
noticed that.
meet whatever the core belief is in the moment, and you're not bullied by it, the next one will come up all by itself.
Yeah.
The next level, whatever it's hiding, you know? And we're talking abstractly. It's
Yeah.
more important, actually, to just be very specific about what it is that we're believing, if you want to share, like a core belief.
You mean to be more specific about a core belief which arises in the basic, the most general core belief that arises in me is the sense that I am separate from everything around me.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel about that?
I just feel it's nonsense.
Yeah, but it still makes you feel separate.
It does, yeah. It's one of the basic, and funnily enough, when I begin to sense that everything is a content of mind, even everything, my soul, my body, my heart is a content of mind,
Mm-hmm.
and everything outside is a content of mind. So then it begins to dawn on me that I'm looking from a different place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking not from the place of the outside inwards,
Mm-hmm.
and saying that this outside is matter, and it's just something separate from me. I'm looking from the sense of mind, that everything is contained in mind. That, for me, is a complete turnaround.
That's good. I have no argument with that. That sounds great.
I'm glad you haven't.
It sounds wonderful.
But at the same time, it so resonates with me when you say that even though that is beginning to take hold of me, that the new direction is beginning to take hold of me, that we have been told lies all our lives. For 300 or 400 years we've been told that the universe is separate from us. It's just dead matter moving into energy.
You know, it all disappears when you disappear.
Absolutely.
And all the stuff about being one with the universe, words, when you actually experience the oneness, you can't put a word on it. Not a single word, because we don't have a vocabulary or anything to describe not being an individual. The individual wants to be the universe, the absolute, and it's scared of losing what it knows. It defends what it wants to get rid of strongly. It wants to hold on to something, anything, knowing something, believing in something. It's scared to death of letting go of everything. And yet, the letting go is so gentle and easy if you just allow yourself to leave it. You could do it in stages. You just notice the tension in the body, put your attention on it, give it some love, Let your mind be at ease. Have no concern for any of your issues or problems in this moment. Allow yourself to feel like in this moment it's safe to be completely still, that you're not going anywhere and you're not losing anything. You're just getting still. Consciously still. So you can just be. Just be. Wide open. So totally at ease that it's blissful. And that's all. And then it's very, very good if you can just watch your breath gently, because it's feeding you this life right now, every moment. What a loving action that is. Before you can even think, it's giving you life. So notice it. Just notice the breath giving you life. And feel the pattern of that coming and going.
That's so profound.
Just notice it. Stay with it. Feel it. Because without it, you can't do anything. And I would say that we assume that the breath is igniting the body, right? But if we look at it, that the breath is coming from space. It's just coming to you every moment. It's coming from nowhere. It's igniting an individual. And if you take it that it's igniting the individual, it supports the idea that you are the individual. But if you look at it that the breath is coming from space, it's invisible. And if you follow it back to the invisible formless, you're acknowledging the formless before the individual. Follow the breath back to the emptiness. I am the emptiness. I appear as form, but I am the emptiness, the formless. And as you acknowledge it, you fall into it. You identify with it. I am the formless beingness of life. That's my nature. That is before I have a body. That's before I think. It's before I take any action. Before I take pride in all my doingness, my knowingness, my brilliance, my stupidity, whatever we think of ourselves. I am the formless, and I'm just following the breath back to the source. So I would say we are honoring the gift of life from where it comes from, not what we think we are. I'm going back to the infinite as the beginning, my beginning, the beginning.
That's a complete turnaround.
Total. Complete total turnaround. I am the infinite appearing as a person, playing the part of the person,
Absolutely.
living in the world, performing as a person. But I know that I am not the person. I am. That's all I know. I am.
And that is the absolute presence of meaning.
That's consciousness.
Yeah.
I am that consciousness, appearing as a person, playing the part of a person, learning all about the truth of its nature. And ultimately, dropping it and being it. And not worrying so much about the person, because person is an overlay. So notice, you have to go back to your mind to think about something to ask.
What? Sorry, say it again.
You have to go back to think now as a person or not. You could ask any question from the I am consciousness of I am the formless. I don't have to think to speak. It's the best questions you could ask.
It's the only real question.
Yeah. Mind is quiet. It's no longer pursuing its ownership and its brilliance and its knowingness. It's superfluous because you are.
I'm sensing the breath now.
That's great.
Such a huge thing, isn't it? Breathe the breath.
To let the whole thing rest.
Yeah.
The whole idea of me, let it rest. Give it a rest.
That was amazing, Stuart. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello,
What's your name?
Michael.
Mako?
No, Michael. As in Jackson.
Michael Jackson. Michael.
Michael, okay.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
So you mentioned somatics and you mentioned the heart.
I mentioned what first?
Somatics,
Say it again.
Sierra, Oscar. Somatics.
Okay.
Right. And so I have been working with energy in the throat.
Mm-hmm.
It's feeling very restricted.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm making progress, but it's taking a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking for some top tips to get it going faster.
What's wrong with your throat?
I just feel this energy is very... It's unpleasant.
Very what?
Unpleasant,
Unpleasant.
yes.
What does it feel like? Mm-hmm. Feel trapped,
Yeah.
and you can't speak your mind.
Yeah, I guess.
Kind of locked up. Does it feel dangerous to speak your mind?
I Yeah, I guess so. It's not something I give a great deal of thought to, but yeah.
You heard me earlier talking to Jane about the process we use,
Mm.
acknowledging the truth of who you are. I love you, self, that I am. And I'm sorry, I feel trapped in my throat. It's like giving the issue to the self. And you don't have to push to get through it if you do that.
Can you explain a bit more the last part?
Well, you could say, I love you, self, that I am, if you want to. Would you? And then you're offering the issue. My throat feels tight, and I cannot speak the truth, or my truth. And then step back and be still. You're inviting the self to meet the issue. And you have to notice that you really want this changed, don't you? You want it gone.
Actually, it's it's more like an impulse. It's not like I want a haircut, or it's like it's just, it keeps arising.
Keeps arising.
Yes.
You could say it's your nemesis. If it wasn't there, you'd be open. You'd be freer.
That seems quite traumatic, but I guess, yeah,
But everybody's got something.
yeah, yeah.
If it wasn't there, life would be a lot better. And alas, nothing works to get rid of it. It's the cross to bear. And so there's a great urge to be free of it so that the person is freer. But you see, in a way, that's an obstacle to being the freedom rather than a freer person. I want to be free, but I want to be me free. Wouldn't that be great? I want to identify as me, free. And this is in my way. And I don't like it.
Yeah, because you mentioned earlier, I think you were speaking to, was it Philip? And you mentioned about taking your trauma to be real and your conditioning to be real. So are you suggesting just to ignore it or notice it and then continue on? Or
Well, I was showing you a process
yeah.
where you can offer it to the self, and the self can come in rather than you trying to alter it, eliminate it, change it, push it out. I mean, all that stuff maybe even has a little effect for a while, but not permanently. But if you're offering, you're surrendering it to the self, there's a possibility that the power can meet it. But usually when we can't speak, there's anger in here. Some level of anger. It could be strong, it could be minor, I don't know. You know. There's anger there. Probably. And then when we can't get through it, it's the block. So I would say, is that true?
I can't say for certain, but it certainly feels a possibility for sure.
Yes. Well, when you did that surrender, did you feel anything?
Yes.
What did you feel?
It was probably more like a possibility rather than anything.
Possibility.
Yeah.
Great. Possibility of change without pushing. Then I would pursue that. Notice what's there. You could call it a block. The block is here. It's asking to be met. Let it be met. And you notice when you're doing that, you're allowing the block to exist. You're not resisting it. So you're not pushing against it. So there's got to be more openness.
Yes.
Yes. So it stops being a nemesis. And it starts being an entrance into yourself. You're reversing it. Instead of it being a problem to the person, it's an entrance to beingness. And you feel more centered in yourself. Without effort. Quieter. Very quiet. I am. how's the throat? Hurts like hell, right?
I'm glad I asked.
Oh, good. Good.
No, I'm sorry about these. I just suddenly realised it's 8 o'clock
Wow.
We're out of time?
and we're out of time. It's just,
Okay.
It's been so beautiful having you with us, Stuart, and I hope
Well.
you're going to come back and see us again.
Well, that would be very nice.
Great. So,
I'm planning to come back to London in the end of October.
Perfect. Yeah, if you give us some dates, I'll pencil you in. Will you be able to give us that sound again?
Sure.
Wonderful.
My pleasure.
But I just
Thank-
think it's so insightful and so beautiful the way you're opening a new movement in all of us. In me, I know in me,
Mm.
who've got so much information and knowledge, and I mean, I can go on for hours about the beauty of truth. It actually means nothing until I actually start looking at myself.
Mhm.
And that's what you're doing.
Yes. Being.
Being. That's the movement now.
Being yourself.
Yeah. And so thank you so much, and I hope, and I'll let me know, or let us know when dates you can come
Mhm.
back, and then we'll set up another satsang. And
Very good.
it's been really, really
Thank you.
beautiful. Thank you, Stuart. Really useful having you. And thank you everyone for being here. And I hope it was interesting. And I'm sorry I hogged it, but it was just such. I thought it was a really beautiful meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.